Hi, everybody. For a minute, I forgot again that I was going to be the one announcing things. Hello, because I just did a show where I wasn't announcing things because I wasn't the GM, but it was on my channel. And anyway, hello, everybody, and welcome in. Thank you so much for joining us for the finale, the final episode. Will we succeed on our quest? The answer is probably none of us will, but maybe we'll succeed on a smaller quest that is not as all encompassing for our lives and our successes. You are joining us for an episode of Mythika. Mythika is using the Agon RPG system published by Evil Hat Official, or Evil Hat, sorry, that's their Twitter handle, Evil Hat Games. You can find them, I think it's like evilhat.com. They are also the publishers behind other games like Blades in the Dark and Fate Core, and I think they did some Call of Cthulhu stuff as well. So go check them out. They're a really rad company. And this is one of their most recent games that is soon to be out in print and is currently available in a digital format. We have a couple other episodes that are up on YouTube, which you can check out if you want to know the shenanigans of what our characters have gotten up to previously. But otherwise, we're going to dive in today to the story. And today our fundraiser, we are going to be raising funds, which we're already $125 to our goal, is for the NAACP, which I realize is NAACP. I was always doing like NAACP. I'm like, no, Lauren, that's the long way of saying it. Empowerment program, which I'm going to hand over to Cheryl to give us a quick little blurb about.
Sure. So the National Association of Colored People, NAACP, the empowerment programs is the nonprofit wing of the NAACP, and so they focus on training programs that help Black leadership come up and continue the advocacy that we desperately need, and help with other educational programs. So it's a tax-deductible donation to the NAACP empowerment programs, and thank you for helping us support them.
And to help incentivize you, in case you weren't already incentivized, you can also influence the story here, what our characters can do. What? Sorry, I heard something in the background.
No, that was me.
How dare you?
Yeah,
Where you will be
try
able
to pull up the Twitch.
So rude, so rude, so rude. We will be able to use your name as corresponds, as well as helping influence the various Greek deities that may or may not like what we are up to. So help us build our story and also support a wonderful organization. So with that, or you can put roadblocks in our way. Thanks, BP. Let's have everyone introduce ourselves. We'll start with Dan and work our way around, and then we'll end with Tony, so that he can take it away. So Dan.
Hi, my name is Dan Poslins. My pronouns are he, him. I am at Dan Poslins. And tonight I will be playing Charistus, the centaur character who hides his centaurness underneath his chiton by compressing his hindquarters back up against himself. Lauren, do you have questions? You look like you have questions.
I just wasn't expecting that's where that sentence was going, and the word compress was also not what I was expecting. But I was going to say, because I like bad puns, would you like to say he doesn't want to be the centaur of attention?
I definitely do not want to say that.
Okay.
In fact, I'm striking that from my memory now.
All right. Well, Janine.
Hi, I'm Janine. You can find me at Admiral Asma on Twitter. And I'm playing Batir Nim, the daughter of the Gorgon Medusa and Perseus. And Poseidon. And she's after Perseus for carrying her mother's head in a bag and murdering her, and all the things. And my pronouns are she, hers.
Cheryl.
Hi, everybody. My name is Cheryl, aka Muppet Aphrodite. My pronouns are she, hers, and I am playing Ironbender Xenon, who is they, them. We found out last time that Ironbender is a descendant of Aphrodite and is essentially the Greek equivalent of a maker, loves crafting things, hence the ironbending. And you can find me at Muppet Aphrodite on Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, whatever.
Hi, my name's Claudia, pronouns she, her. I go by Jackie Dash on the Twitch and Twitter, Jakiddash. Thank you. And I am playing a character called Electo the Pure-Hearted, who is 16 on an adventure to save a bunch of soon-to-be, they're not orphans yet because they have parents. What is it called when the kids are taken away from the parents?
Kidnapped?
Foster,
Yeah.
like,
Anti-orphaned.
Reverse orphans.
Reverse orphan. Anyway, she's trying to save the kids from her island. Electo's much nicer than me, and pronouns are she, her.
All right, Tony, take us away.
I am Tony Beeman. I am at Tiny Beeman. My pronouns are he, him, or they, them. Yeah, I'm our Strife player today, which means I'm here representing the Strife, which isn't bad. These are Greek heroes. They need strife. They need obstacles in their way to prove themselves to be heroes and not just lame, normal humans that no one would ever write an epic poem about. So really, I'm here to help them. And if you want to throw roadblocks in their way, that just helps them in their own special way as well. So yeah, we'll think about that. And Lauren, did we want to talk about donations from last week as well?
Yes. Yeah, if you want to talk about the
yeah,
GoFundMe. That was the other thing we did.
We want to thank you all. It looks like you raised just over $3,000 for Campaign Zero, which has done an awesome job of collecting tons of data that in the U.S. we don't have a lot of national collections of data about policing, stuff like that. So there are a lot of conversations out there about what to do next, about what's going on in this country, and they have a lot of the data. They've put together a lot of it. They've done a lot of the research. They've tracked different cities who've implemented different things. It's an awesome organization. So thank you so much for your support. And as we announced, $2,000 of that's going to be matched. Thanks for making that happen as well. We really appreciate it. So you guys are super awesome for that.
Very generous.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Are we good to start? I think we are.
So.
All right. Well, we're playing Agon. We have Greek heroes who have been lost at sea, and we need our muse tonight to tell us of their journeys, of their amazing adventures, or the adventures that weren't recorded because they failed to defend themselves against the degradation of their own names or the loss of their own names to legend, as may have happened last week. But I will tell you, they have just left the Isle of Velos, where the heroes did, in fact, make it to a tower where Toxon, a giant bird that Artemis had granted to the Amazon queen of that island, had held Cupid prisoner. Eros, I should say, because we're Greek. And Eros has been set free. They, in fact, use the help of a poet, Ibycus, by sort of just pushing him into doing this. And Ibycus got all the credit. It was their choice, kind of, to allow him to really write himself into the poem and tell a great love story, which would bring the attention to the gods. Aphrodite has noticed the efforts of our heroes, and while she's noticed, the rest of the island did not. They gave all the credit to Ibycus. And as the heroes left the island, people are friendly enough, but mostly they keep cheering Ibycus, and they'll come running up to you all as you leave, and they'll say, "You spent time with Ibycus. Tell us, was he as dreamy as we've heard he is? Is his love as true as we imagined?" But Aphrodite, you freed her offspring, Eros. She's very pleased. You have divine favor from Aphrodite from this place forward. However, Artemis did grant this Amazon princess this Toxon bird to help prevent Eros from sort of wantonly making people fall in love at inconvenient times and produce offspring when Amazon should be going to battle. So Artemis is a little ticked off. It might come up today. You make it back to your boat, and your sailors are sort of curious. They kind of expected to hear great deeds of you, but they've heard none. But you set forth sailing, as you do, and they ask you to sort of regale them of your deeds, show them any trophies or anything. Who among you would like to sort of raise up in this moment and try to impress upon them your deeds and what you accomplished and what they accomplished by supporting you? Who will answer this challenge in some way?
I, stout-legged Charistus, will prove my worth to these foolish sailors.
I, Batir Nim, clever-eyed Batir Nim, will impress upon these sailors the worth of my deeds.
I, Alecto, the Pure-Hearted, will stand down and instead support Xenon.
I, a suasive voice Ligeia, will tell the sailors of my great restraint in ensuring that the poet does still in fact have his hands.
I, Ironbender Xenon, with the generous help of Alecto, will portray a riveting shadow puppetry extravaganza to detail how we saved the great love on that island.
All right. Well, this, based on how you've answered, certainly sounds like you're going to meet it as an arts and oration challenge. It's got a target of 8. Shouldn't be too difficult. Your sailors already like you as people. So they gather up. You've been on the sea for a couple of days in which you sort of wound down, and they've sort of gathered tonight under the stars to hear hear your stories and see your treasures that you've wrought. Look for those rolls.
Ooh,
All
just.
right.
Alecto, is your name die a D?
It's still a D6.
Yeah.
Thank you for checking, though. I also wish my name was a D8.
And if any of you are new this week, and Agon, they use their names, they use their deeds. It's not just bragging rights. This is like the importance, the power of their legend is how they compete with each other in a sense. So, okay, it looks like I have all the roles, and let's start with Ligeia.
So we all know that the sailors don't like her, but she doesn't care. So she stands, Ligeia, sort of waifish, stands in front of this group of sailors and says, I'm sure you have heard of the love, the bond between the two young individuals, and I am here to tell you of how I ensured that bond would be kept because I did not cut his hands off in order to murder the bird, even though that option was distinctly on the table. So he's alive, I guess.
She didn't kill a human! The sailors cheer and they seem relieved. Some of their pressures relieved to find out that you are maybe a little less murderous than they suspect you are. You inspire them and they actually cheer your name, although still hesitantly, and none of them look you in the eye.
All reasonable. Then I yield the floor to their applause.
Charistus.
Yes.
Charistus steps forward and he demonstrates the incredible wisdom and cleverness with which he was able to blind the great bird Toxin. And he does so by taking one of the shields that they have from their storage. I'm not sure what they have on the boat. But he takes one of the shields.
I mean, you have Aegises, like on the sides of your trireme.
Yeah. So he grabs one of them and reflects the light into the eyes of like a passing seagull, which basically loses its orientation and goes plummeting into the sea. And he holds his arm aloft and says, "With greatness to Apollo, did I blind that bird?"
Yeah, the sailors cheer. Yes. Man and woman versus nature. Yes, that's right. Tear all the birds from the sky. They cheer your name. Who is next?
Batir Nim steps up and says, "Dear worshippers of Poseidon and stalwart sailors, I have launched a poet at a bird. I did put my knife in his hand, and although he was too afraid to jump, I did use my magics to carry him aloft and thrust him at the bird. And then later, I tried very hard to bring his poetry to life, but I was too tired."
Yes, yeah, the soldiers cheer even more now. They're all getting into it. Some of the ones who were sleeping wake up and they said, yes, the poet who is turned into an arrow is mightier than the sword. Someone write that down and translate that into a convenient saying that people can say for years.
And then Electo and I creep up from behind the sailors and throw a sail over over a few barrels and light fire. I do love fire. Light some fires to illuminate behind. Now we have a screen. Let us tell you the tale of the arrow as it flew up to the great bird. For the great bird did not want to see the arrow, and the rocks they did fall. They did fall so. But in a great moment of inspiration, all of the maths in all of the world became available to me, and I was able to deflect the stones with my fire so that the arrow could make it to the bird. And the Electo themselves spoke loving inspiration to the poet, but was so convincing the poet briefly fell in love with Electo, and so I called upon my parent, Aphrodite, to come down and bring the true love back into the poet's heart as that arrow cleaved the crow truly in twain. And so you see there's like a crow and there's
we rip it apart at this point, destroying it. And we also possibly light the curtain on fire in the end.
and the heavens were aflame in the celebration of our glory and of true love held aloft for all time.
Yes, the sailors cheer now loudest of all for you. They shout your name and they leap up into the air and they take bows and arrows and they shoot it into the sky. They kill several more seagulls who happen to be flying above.
Good, yes. Use the maps a bit better. Just over to the right.
Yes, they take heed from your wisdom, and though they will never tell this tale beyond the ship, because the words of your deeds will not survive from the last island, they themselves are impressed, and they look to you, Ironbender Xenon, for leadership in this moment, or to tell them who to follow on these next few days.
I am happy to help them with their continued journey in pursuit of love and maths.
They all cheer then. Everyone has succeeded. Electo, you succeeded in assistance. But they are all impressed. They're full of enthusiasm and they drink late into the night. And so many of them are pretty drunken and asleep when a gigantic seagull with an arrow sticking out of its head rises out of the ocean. Actually, it doesn't have an arrow. It's blinded. Is that right, Charistus?
Yeah. Well, I mean, is it that seagull? I mean, it could be any seagull, right? Damn.
It rises into the air with sunbeams shooting out of its eyes and calls out. And you hear a call in return. It is, in fact, Cataclysmos, the serpent who destroyed your last ship on our 2 islands ago on your very first adventure. You see it come out of the water. And the few sailors who survived the last one scream and they say, Ironbender Xenon, wake! Cataclysmos has returned. Navigate us away. Save us.
I do want to point out that earlier Electo was doing this and I believe indicating where the emergency exits on the ship were. So
yes, the sailors. I think there are a lot of them, but the sailors appreciate it. If you need to evacuate and give up yet another ship, you can. However, the creature Cataclysmos seems to be quite some distance away. And you have had a hint. You've had birds flying with laurels in their beaks, possibly to the south. You think there might be land there, but you don't know how quickly you'll be able to find it. Which of you heroes will rise to try and help us out of this situation?
I, stout-legged Charistus, will see to it that we all arrive to safety.
The strong-limbed Alecto will be sure to use my net to pull up the beast so it will not catch up to us. It works as a Greek myth.
Sure, yeah.
I, clever-eyed Batir Nim, will call upon my father, the sea god Poseidon, to assist us.
I, a suasive voiced Lygia, familiar with these oceans, as confusing as they are, will direct us to nearest landfall. Totally not rocks to die in.
I Ironbender Xenon, shall draw upon my precious rainbow horn of knowledge, my trophy from one of our previous adventures, to seek knowledge of a safe port for us in this metaphorical storm, and to answer the fear of our drunken sailors.
Yes. Well, terrible Cataclysmos screams in the distance and charges at you. I'm going to use Xenon's sort of choice since Xenon is the leader here to sort of... that sounds like craft and reason to me. You're going to use the horn you built, right?
Yes, and specifically navigation challenge, not addressing it in direct combat.
Yes.
That didn't work so well the last time.
Yeah. So I'm going to call this craft and reason. You, of course, can spend pathos. That's pain and suffering for those of you who are new to use some other a way of meeting the challenge if anyone wants. Did that show up?
Yes, it did.
Good.
How did I roll that high? Well, it is a
I feel
target.
like that's something you ask every time.
Oh my. Oh,
15.
Never works when I'm a player, but it is a 15.
Yeah.
do we have any chorus?
Bonds? Yeah, do we have any bonds with our
Yes,
chorus?
let's check. And
How do you feel about us?
Good to use.
I feel like
audience, for those of you who've not been here in weeks before, your donations are allowing you to, in fact, join the Greek chorus. That means you maybe use as heroes or as cannon fodder or whatever the heroes need, but you're going to help them on their journey. You, in fact, have, let's see, we have 7 bonds available. With
Oh, yeah, I'm going to use one of those.
Yes.
We had 7. Yes, I should use one.
Yeah, we're just calling on the help of the sailors here.
They're gonna help.
Yeah.
So
Just
that
call
7
them on
goes down to
I'll use
2.
one as well.
And Tony, what
If everyone
die
uses one.
should I use for the horn?
This, let's see, that was the horn from you used
The first week.
Yeah, on the statue of the Aegean. That's pretty appropriate, I think. Horns are pretty useful in the water when you're trying to find yourself or warn. So I'm going to say D10.
Thank you.
Oh, man.
I think I'm going to spend pathos to
yes.
add some arts and oration.
I tried to spend pathos. It was
And then it's 1d6
non-successful.
for the chorus, right?
Yeah. Now, if they use up their pathos, they go into agony. They start to suffer,
still
and they
suffer.
burn their fate, which leads them closer and closer to their inexorable ending. So, just to let you know. Look, do I have all the rolls in here? I'm missing
No,
one, I
I'm
think.
still working on mine.
The waters beginning to waves are pouring up. You have a feeling that Cataclysmos, the gods are watching this moment. More seagulls rise out with arrows in their heads, leading on the moment.
Seagulls
Okay,
are jerks.
and it looks like we have some rolls in. Electo, let's hear what happened.
Yes, so Alecto, the pure-hearted, is still learning their epithet of the strong-limbed from taking down the statue of Athena long ago with Athena's support. And so she gets out her net to stop the beast from approaching. And she uses her resolve to steel herself. She gets low, in that good squatting position to make sure she can get that net. However, she did realize after casting the net that you can't use a net to keep things away from the ship. Nets are used to bring things to the ship. So unfortunately, I believe she gets cataclysto, correct?
Cataclysmus.
Cataclysmus, and actually just pulls a little bit closer.
Yes, you hurl the net because it's no ordinary net. It is a mythical net. You hurl it several Krellin leagues. Is that what we're calling them? It hurls itself out into the darkness, and you pull. And yes, you do. In fact, your heroic strength allows you to pull the creature even closer. It screams out in anger and seems very upset.
Oh, and in my struggle to pull the net, I actually push a chorus member out of the ship. I just yank, and they just go flying because they were in the way. It's unfortunate, and we'll mourn this unknown soldier.
Yes, a sailor known as Grim, and for now on known as Grim the Lost, because Grim is lost at sea in this moment, is hurled out of the boat into the water.
Like, goodbye.
Let's see who's next here. Looks like, am I right?
Lygia, yeah. Lygia, now as we know of her history of leading people through the ocean, she is very good, in fact, at it. And so she stands up there, her persuasive voice, soft and lilting, begins to lull the sailors into a sense of security and calm, and she directs them. But a little too late, she realizes that she's very used to directing boats to crash into rocks, and realizes that up ahead there is a series of large rocky islands that we are about to crash into. And the hull of the ship begins to scrape and bump along it. And unfortunately, a dear Dem, they are lost to us as the Dem of the Lishan family. There are many of them. They just named all of their son the same thing, and they are pushed overboard.
Yes, one of the 4 that are currently on the boat.
Yeah, there's several of them. There's Dem 1, Dem A, Dem B, Dem C.
Dem Alpha, Dem Omega.
Yeah. Dem Alpha Lishan. Bumps and falls tragically into the ocean. It's very sad,
yes,
really.
As Dim Alpha sinks, he said, "I always knew that Lygia would kill me on some rocks in the water."
Sorry.
The trireme does scrape against those rocks and sort of gets battered back and forth, slowing you down, making it even harder to escape Cataclysmos. Let's
Batir, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
yes.
So Batir steps forward towards the edge of the boat and puts her arms aloft and calls out to Poseidon, "Daddy, please come and help." But she's called on her father quite a bit in the last week. And rather than appearing, they don't communicate very well or often. And so rather than, Poseidon showing up, I imagine he just shoots a sailor back onto the ship. And it was like, "Fine, I gave you your sailor back. What?" And so she's having magical talks with Dad. Like, "Dad, I want you to
Dem Alpha ends back up on the ship.
Yeah.
Yes. The sea rumbles a bit, and in fact, one of the sailors is, in fact, it's Grim lost. The lost Grim is thrown back onto the boat. But then, besides not paying enough attention, another wave takes Grim back off the boat, and Grim is lost again to the ocean. Grimm's brothers and sisters in arms cheer at their return and then cry out again as they are lost to the water once again.
On the wind, Betir thinks she hears the voice of Poseidon saying something like, "How's your mother?" Which is just like painful.
Yes. Next is we had another.
I believe that's Ironbender Xenon.
Yes.
So the ship has already crashed a bit into the rocks. We did find land. That was the initial goal. But of course, the primary goal, not dying. Xenon confers, gathers the help of one of the chorus members on the ship, one of the sailors, to hold the horn aloft in an attempt to, because the horn of knowledge has imparted the information that the great horrifying specter in front of them is not a fan of romantic poetry, and we happen to have a little bit lying around. So attempt to use the horn of knowledge to drown the great bird in a cacophony of poetry, but it turns out we picked the wrong genre, and it's actually the great bird is actually in a little bit of a sort of emo mood and gets into it a little bit and gets a little energy from the exchange. Oh,
yes. The Xenon actually does an incredibly good job getting the horn in place, everything. But sadly, the muses did not describe Cataclysmos well enough as the great sea serpent it is, and its calibration is for a bird instead. And the sound goes above it, and the creature itself speeds even faster now and seems intent on destroying your trireme, scattering you and the sailors to the bottom of the ocean. The sailors cry out. They said, "If not Xenon, then who can save us?"
Finally, at this point, Charistus looks at how dire the situation is, and he knows he must summon his greatest strength if he is going to be able to save Shippy McShipface, the boat that was named for being a ship, and their face as a group. And he reaches deep into his resolve and spirit and calls upon Aphrodite, who was who they favored on their previous journey, and he looks to her for her favor now, and she sends to him from the flock of seagulls that are swarming. One of them comes down and alights on his hand, and he knows what must be done. He calls for the bravest sailor to come join him, and one who introduces himself as William shows up, and he gives the seagull to him and says, this bird will know the way to land. All seagulls do. You must now commit the greatest sacrifice, for you must drag our boat in the water to land and to safety. Will you do this thing? And the William gulps, but sort of does a final salute and then jumps overboard, holding the seagull, grabbing the rope from the trireme, and pulls the ship all the way to land, where finally he crawls up onto the sand and expires from the monumental effort.
Yes, this sailor William does this, as you say. He says he's happy to help, and he leaps into the water. And you might ask, how can a human do this? But Aphrodite does smile upon you, and a half oyster shell appears under him in the water, and he sort of surfs with it across the water, carrying the ship. But it is, as you say, too much for his mortal body, and he collapses onto the beach as the ship is brought there. Behind you, Cataclysmos screams, for it is too large to get through the rocks that you were previously caught on, and cannot get closer to this sandy beach that you're upon. You look around, and it appears to be an island. There seems to be a jungle before you. It's nighttime, so you cannot see very much.
I say a prayer to William, blessing him to Elysia.
Sailors have noted the glory that Charistus has brought them, as well as the rest of you have brought some glory as well. All is appreciated.
What?
Xenon immediately starts working on a fire because everything is made better with fire. Especially after a sea battle.
The remaining sailors, some of which are named Dema, help. They follow your lead. They help construct a camp.
Christus is just exhausted. He's sitting on his hindquarters, cradling his staff, and just sort of his head is tilted down in both in mourning and in concentration as he reflects on the events that brought them to this island.
Lygia approaches Charistus. Well, should we explore this island you've brought us to? Do we know what is here?
I don't feel as though I am the one to say, for the resolve has left me from this great journey, but Xenon, they were the one who saw this route that would bring us. Perhaps they can be the one to find us safe harbor here.
Indeed. Xenon? When you're done with the fire, do we want to see if there are any people here?
What time of day is it? Is it still pitch black or is the dawn breaking?
It's still pitch black at this point. You probably have 3 or 4 hours before this Apollo's chariot will bring the sun across the horizon.
I fear that fording into the forest in the middle of the dark is asking for more trouble when Cataclysmos has already called our number once tonight. But some of these trees are on the edges of the beach. Let's gather some supplies and enjoy the few hours we have before we have light enough to explore. Mend our wounds with palm fronds and...
We lost several sailors today.
So you sort of build an encampment. Xenon's in charge, so it's, I imagine, very orderly. Sailors following her rules.
45-degree angle.
Right. And everything's put together. Pretty soon there's a surprisingly nice, almost fort-like campsite put together. And the sun begins to rise. Sailors are tired. You're all a little tired. I don't know if you slept, but maybe you got a couple hours of sleep here and there. As the sun comes up, you see that there's no real mountains here. There's hills here and there, but it's all covered in trees. And you see at this point no sign of civilization.
Perhaps we have found ourselves a vacation of sorts, but your previous suggestion, wandering in forest, seems much more palatable now that the light of day has joined us.
Yes, let's explore. We might find perhaps a temple to give thanks to, and then we could be on our way.
What use is any of it? The sea only waits to devour us all upon our return.
But we are on land, and so the sea does not devour us as long as we stand here with our own 2 feet or hooves.
Time may not be escaped.
Hey, a woman comes out where she was gathering wood for the fire out of the woods, holding a small child, like a baby, and it says, "Heroes, Xenon, it is a sign from Hecate. I found this baby suckling at the teat of a wolf. What place is this? And as she says it, the baby sort of fades away into smoke.
It was the baby was suckling a pig, or the pig was
The baby was being fed by a wolf.
Wolf. Baby fed by a wolf.
Charistus turns and looks over and says, I don't see any child.
Yes, it was here a moment ago. It was there. I saw it as clear as, and I knew somehow it was a omen from Hecate.
Where is it now, this child that you say you had?
I don't know. I'm just a sailor.
Well, perhaps there is more children that we have to find. Perhaps it's not a omen, but a hint at more babes.
Yes, and just then a man runs out from the ocean where he's taking supplies. He was like, just now I saw an amazing thing. Fish, a gigantic fish with teeth like razors leapt at me. It was terrifying. The other sailors kind of laugh. He's like, no, it wasn't just a fish. It was horrifying. And then a teenager leapt out of the water, a person, a human, and quickly built a cage around the fish, keeping me safe before it all turned into water. It is a sign, surely, from Hephaestus that our leader, Ironbender Xenon, is correct in her ways.
Hephaestus means to tell us that there's a way for us to become strong enough to circumvent this cataclysmos once and for all. Perhaps we can find a way to build the metaphorical cage around cataclysmos, making ourselves safe, just like this brave sailor was, standing his ground before that horrifying-sounding fish.
Build a cage around the god. Such a thing cannot be done, surely.
Charistus.
Anything is possible. Just some things are difficult.
Did not the gods cage the Titans?
Yes.
It has been done before, and it can be done again. Or you can choose to not fear the sweet embrace of death from the ocean. I've heard it's quite calming and pleasant.
I will not die on the ocean.
Aegean, you keep pitching to us death on the ocean, and frankly, it's tiresome.
Maybe the message will get through someday.
Well, every day draws me nearer to that death at the rocky depths.
Again, I don't think it's as bad as you think it's going to be.
Xenon, do you think we could really do such a thing?
I feel the fire of Hephaestus with us. And what other choice do we have if every time we head out on Bodie McBoatface, we are faced with this angry serpent? Then we have no choice but to seek the inspiration of the gods. I feel as if there must be a material on this island that will help us cage the great beast and sail unfettered to the destinations the gods have for us.
I think we must be careful on this island because I think there are foul magics at play here.
Why do you say so?
Babies disappearing after being suckled at a wolf's teat.
I mean, that does track.
Yeah. It's very on brand.
The rest of you
Perhaps
saw
the
this
people
baby.
here
It's
we
not-
find will not be as they seem.
Well, maybe we should look around the island a bit and see if we can find the source of these strange things, or if maybe they are omens from the gods.
Xenon draws their sledgehammer and is ready to go.
All right. It sounds like you go. Do you march into the jungle or along the beach, or?
Into the jungle.
Right, you head into the jungle for several Krellin leagues before you hear in the distance what sounds like children screaming and yelling, and the sounds of roaring, like roaring beasts. sounds coming from probably half a Krellin League ahead of you.
Children just like the Omen.
Are they
Tyr, do you
are they
think-
like happy, playful screaming, or are they like, oh, we're kids about to die screaming?
You would say it sounds like fighting, but not terror.
Then we must go, for what is more precious to the life of a child?
We must
And-
be careful with children. The signs were not in our favor. We can approach, but do not embrace them. Do not run up to them. Let us observe them. And they're fighting.
As you wish, but if there is any harm, I will step forward. And I take
I
with that, Lecto.
I will go with you, Xenon, and see what is happening with these children.
Right, you step forward into a clearing where you see creatures, bears and wolves and dogs fighting with children. Children are anywhere from age like 5 to 10. The children are throwing rocks at the animals. And the animals are moving to the side and trying to lunge at the children.
Could this be play? If they wanted to harm the children, surely they would have done so already.
The children
Surely
aren't
the
throwing rocks
animals
at
are not
them.
threatened by these stones and sticks.
We should endeavor to understand what is going on here.
These seem like poorly behaved children. They're throwing things at animals.
Perhaps the animals are the poorly behaved because they are throwing claws and teeth at children.
Clever-eyed Batir Nim will step forward and address the dogs and say, "No, sit down, stop."
All the animals and the children stop, especially at your no, and they look at you all. And then they all come charging at you, both the animals and the
Oh,
children, throwing rocks. The dogs and wolves and bears are yapping and barking. None of them
That's
appear
cool.
to have any injuries about them, but they definitely seem like they're about to attack you. So who will rise to meet this challenge? If you would like to meet it in some way.
I, a suasive-voiced Lygia, will tell this rabble of child and animal to stand down, to cease their bickering.
I, Electo, the pure-hearted and strong-limbed, will step forward and use my resolve and spirit to settle down those children with the family values of Demeter's as her aid.
Oh, well, if you're calling on Demeter.
She does a very good job of keeping control of her daughters.
No, she really didn't. She didn't terrible. No. Do not invoke that God's
All right.
name here.
Anybody else?
I, clever-eyed Batir Nim, will use my magics to form a distraction to keep the wolves and the children and the bears from attacking.
I, Ironbender Xenon, shall try to quickly fashion some sort of sporting device that will help these various gathered beings get their energy out without injury.
Yanking off my chiton to reveal my hindquarters. I, stout-legged Choristus, scion of Chiron, will bring order to this chaos at once.
Very well. It sounds like that is everybody. And that sounds like reason for the most part is what I'm hearing. So we'll make that craft and reason. The target is going to be 7.
Oh, thank God.
Okay.
All right. All right.
Like the lowest
Wait,
you've rolled this
7?
time.
Like not 17, not 28,
Not 17, just 7.
Okay.
All right.
They're
These are
babies.
children. These are
think
children and animals.
I am going to call upon some divine favor. I'm not gonna use pathos, but I'm gonna call upon Aphrodite. If Demeter's being brought into this, I'm gonna bring the opposite of family values.
I don't know if Demeter's too family value-y. That'd be Hera. So Demeter's.
Oh, I might have messed up.
Demeter's
right.
pretty
Um,
motherly. Hera's
yeah.
more marriagey. It's strange.
Demeter's pretty
The
agrarian.
ultimate wife,
Yeah.
right?
Maybe Demeter is the animal parts,
Yes.
calming down the animals.
All right. It looks like I have everybody's roles. We're gonna, let's hear from Ironbender Xenon. How's this go?
Ironbender Xenon has been fiddling with various palm fronds in hand nervously with the sledgehammer in the other. Looks at them and shows them the ball, and then bonks it past the line of animals and babies to the other side. And while they watch that ball, I fashion a few other balls and throw them around the field.
They immediately, several of, especially the dogs, some of the other animals chase after the balls. A couple of the children too, and a couple of children chase after the animals. They're definitely distracted by this.
And I want to run over and like return volley with my hammer, kind of like cricket. So I'm playing with them right now.
Yep, they still seem a little aggressive, but they're definitely taken in by this, almost despite themselves. Who's next?
Lygia stands forward, but craft and reason is not her strength. Her strength is in her persuasiveness. And she stands in front of the group and much like I think Betty or Nim did, except with less force, just says, "Now settle down, all of you. Take it. It's time to settle down. Lie down on the floor." But she is not very good at talking to children. So I think she keeps like sort of underaging them, like she's a little too patronizing for some of them. Like, "You look like you're all tuckered out now." As she sort of begins to quell some of the crowd, but certainly not all of them.
Yes, you do succeed in calming them down a little bit, maybe using some of your some of them seemed almost charmed by you. And you notice the animals seem to understand what you're saying as well, but you come with their commands. One of them tries to sit, one of them does this, a bear does this, but overall they calm down further. Who's next?
I think it's me. Batir Nim calls upon her magic to create the illusion of several large pieces of meat on the ground in the hopes that at least some of the non-complying animals will be interested and distracted by it.
You said meats?
Yeah.
They are immediately repelled by the meats. They seem horrified and worried, especially the animals, and they back away. But it does have the effect of they're no longer charging at you.
They are repelled by meat.
They are not a threat.
Yes. Who's next?
Alecto, the pure-hearted and strong-limbed, steps forwards and, calling upon the strength of Demeter, who I learned is the goddess of agriculture, asks for her support. And so, if it may please the gods and maybe the strife player, large stalks of wheat grow and slow everyone's movement down as Alecto stands between the children and the animals and says, "Do not hurt those who are young and pure-hearted. I will take the wound."
Yes, the stalks grow up. It's bounteous crops emerge from the sort of foresty woods, and some of the animals are like nibbling at the grains and other seeds that are produced by your work. They seem quite a bit calmed by this. There are only a few still running at you, and a lot of the aggression seems calm by now. But we are not done.
Charistus is old. Charistus is tired. He is from what they knew as in Athens as the boomer generation, and he's fed up, frankly. But this is his wheelhouse, understanding the minds of the young and how to best prey at them and their vulnerability. He calculates perfectly. He gallops up onto a small mound where the rising sun catches him in a perfect silhouette as he rears up on his hind legs and stamps down and calls out to them, "You are all very, very bad," and just causes them to all... He knows that shaming is one of the most effective parenting tactics, and he puts it to use here, just standing from his like slightly elevated position, this domineering, looming figure, projecting this sensation that everyone around him has failed him miserably.
And do you look like a human right now? Or
no, I took off my Chiron.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I've gone full centaur. My name die also leveled up, so people, when they hear that it was Charistus, that made them feel small, they should feel like extra small.
All the animals and children that are still moving stop immediately. The dogs especially seem upset by being called bad, and they lay down the ground. You notice there are all sorts of breeds of dogs. They're not just like wild dogs. They're all different. I don't think they had lap dogs in Greece, but there's like dogs bred for hunting and those for shepherding and just wild dogs. But they all immediately sit down and look up at you, and the children too seem, some of them blush, and they look down at themselves and they seem ashamed by what they've let themselves become.
I look for the most vulnerable looking babe amongst them, and I like get into their space and I say, "Explain yourself."
Sir, I didn't mean... Are you Charistus?
Yes.
Charistus?
You will carry to the grave the memory of seeing Charistus this day.
Charistus the horse-assed. Yes, we've heard of you.
We will circle back to that, you had better believe.
That's just what people called you. I didn't mean to make fun of you. It's just people say your butt is a horse.
My butt is that of a horse. You will be lucky to not have it sit on you by the end of this day, should you not hurry up and explain what is happening here.
We will hurry, bring food and drink for our guest, and we will explain everything. The animal and children sort of run into the periphery and pretty soon come back, like the bears that have like tables on their backs, and they set them down in the woods, and a giant feast is sort of set out with drink and food, but no meat. In fact, some of the children look protective and take the meats and like kind of move them over to the edge. They don't want to offend you all, but they seem disturbed by the meat.
Are they real meats or illusions of meat?
I would have dispersed my illusions at that point.
Okay, then they look for the meat and they're like, they seem relieved that the meat is gone. And they say, "Sit and eat with us, and we shall tell you how we came to be here, sir, if that's okay."
But I'm so tired. Just please explain.
All right. They all sit down at the tables. And you presumably join them. In fact, you feel compelled to join them. And we will come back to this moment after a quick break and the reading of some donations. And also we'll check on the status. So make sure I'm updated here. Just so you know, tithing wise, our audience has Hephaestus, god of industry, is currently the favored by our audience, but Hecate, goddess of magic, is also pretty well supported. This is maybe one of the most even distributions I've seen. So both gods are very present and strong on the island today. We have some donations as well. Thank you, Graham Lost at Sea, Found and Lost Again. Thank you, all the demolitions. William, thank you for getting the boat. And Betty's Best, who we've not yet seen, but I think there's a good chance we will. Couple of quotes. Demolition says, "For a true hero isn't measured by the size of his strength, but by the strength of his heart." Zeus, Hercules, 1997.
The classic
William,
Greek myth.
happy to help. Betty's Best says, "Look, industry is great and all, but have you tried magic? Magic can do everything industry can do, but with flair. And her name is Heckin' Kate. How wicked sweet is that? Yeah, pretty wicked sweet. Betty's Best, magical flair, be your best with flair." Thank you for doing some marketing on Hecate's behalf there. And Demo would also say the remaining demos contribute to making a great framework for the show. Using Hephaestus's work, I imagine. So thank you so much for your support. Keep it coming. The NAACP does tons of amazing work and has for many, many years. So thank you for all that. And we will be back in 5 minutes or so.
Hello, everybody. We return to the second part of the three parts of the third episode of Agon.
Part three.
We are on an island. There are dogs and cats and lions and tigers and children. Oh my.
Oh my.
Tony, take it away.
Yes. Here's the story that the muses have given us so far is that they have escaped onto an island, the name of which we don't yet know. They have been visited by two signs, a sign from Hecate of a child suckling on a wolf, and a sign from Hephaestus of maybe a more adult human building some sort of cage to keep an angry fish away. They've gone to the jungle. They were rushed by some children and animals were fighting with each other. They rushed our heroes. Our heroes sort of talked them out of it using shame techniques and other and bribery techniques with food and other highly recommended parenting tips. So they've managed to calm the animals and creatures down. And a great feast has been brought out by both the children and animals. And they've realized the animals can actually talk. The children obviously can talk. But they say very little of import. They're asking questions about you all. Yep. As they bring this great feast. As you sit down, they tell you this story. And you feel compelled to eat. Now, we'll find out in a moment whether you did eat or not. But what the oldest looking child says is, we are all but sailors who came here and there, and finding this island, we lost our age. Some of us became animals. Some of us became children. It's good. We're provided for. All the grains we need. We don't eat meat. I'm sorry, but we're always afraid we're going to be eating one of ourselves. So, but we're provided for. But we all have a longing to go and mean something to the world again. We're lost. We have families. We have our own stories we'd like to live. Some of us have been here for almost 10 years. Some of us very little. Have you come here to save us? And as they say this, as I said, you feel compelled to eat and drink the food. You might or might not have a sense of that enchantment. And we're going to end up. This is going to be a challenge. For any you'd like to meet it. If you don't meet it, you'll just eat the food. But would anyone like to try to resist the call of eating the food and drink?
Ironbender Xenon will try not to eat.
All right.
Reason.
I, clever-eyed Batir Nim, am doing a fast that's cayenne pepper based, and I will not partake of the food.
Alecto is going to eat the food.
I, a suasive voice Lygia, I am the one who tempts people to their doom. You do not tempt me to my doom. I tempt you to your doom. I will not be out-tempted.
Very well.
Charistus is far too exhausted and to stop from eating food that he sees presented to himself. Mm-hmm. However, he will support Xenon as they see fit to in their actions.
Very well. You do feel compelled, and the compulsion is very strong. To eat, to drink. It sounds like you are trying to use craft and reason to prevent yourselves, or those of you who try to stop. I am going to roll this. Actually, sorry, I messed that up. Let me re-roll that.
Okay.
Because you do feel that Hecate is present here, not maybe in full strength, but some beings on this island seem to have tithed to Hecate. So, and it looks like the target is 13 to resist. Now,
Big
I'm going to
yikes.
tell you so you can choose how it affects you. If you do in fact eat as you make your rolls of the food or drink, you're going to change in some part into an animal or part animal, or a
Has
different
Chris just
animal.
already been here?
If you succeed,
No, I'm excited. This is great.
if you succeed, you're going to still be turned into a teenager by the enchantment of this glade. So decide how that plays out
good.
for your character.
Okay, I gotta think this one
Good.
through. I get some time, thank goodness.
I mean, do you just like de-age like by a year, Electo? Because you're 16.
No, I ate it, so I turned into
Yeah.
an animal.
Oh, yeah, but you also turned into a teenager, so you don't change.
You're also turning younger if you're an animal. It's just you're an
It's
animal.
less obvious. You said this is craft and reason.
Yes.
Okay, then I'm going to spend pathos because I'm very stubborn. To add arts and oration.
All right.
and
We'll get you to make your rolls.
I will expend divine favor from Hera
Okay.
with my cunning.
Yes.
Oh,
Be really
Yeah,
hard.
that's right. That's right.
Cheryl, that was so you had like
All right.
everything there.
Am
I'm
I
having
missing-
really bad rolls today.
Oof.
Oh,
Am I missing any rolls here? I have two, right?
I'm
You're missing
going.
one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hold on.
I feel like it's maybe a good bet we can call on Ironbender Xenon here. Yes, Ironbender Xenon. What happens and what's the effect?
Well, Ironbender Xenon's plan, I'm going to gather as much grain as possible and just nervously weave it to keep my hands busy. Charistus had offered their assistance before beginning the meal and helping me gather some of that grain. So I've gathered it. I begin weaving the like little wreaths for everybody, but I sat down too close to Charistus, and it just sort of keep creeping closer to the food, and it eventually run out of grain. I've gone too fast, and before I can even stop to think, my hand just grabs some of the food. They've been moving so fast. Even with the assistance of Hephaestus, I'm unable to resist.
Yes, so you eat, and tell us what, do you become an animal? Do you become part animal?
That's a good question.
can I go?
Because as you look about the glade, you see now that some of the animals are not fully animals. Some have parts of humans, some of the children have animal parts, and some have become fully animals, although they seem to still be intelligent and able to speak.
I mean, I think that what's burned into Xenon's brain is probably the battle from the last island with the big bird. So I believe the transformation would take along those lines.
All right. Well, we'll skip and we'll come back and let you describe what you've become, maybe in some detail. But let's jump to let's see. I believe our next roller is Clever-Eyed Betty or Nim.
Yes. Betir sits down with every intention of ignoring the food. But the thing that she hadn't really thought too much about is that she is on day 3 of a 5-day cleanse. And she's just been doing, it's just liquids. And so when she sits down, she realizes she hasn't actually had anything to eat for a real long time. And she's like, that's probably why my magic has been off a little bit. I'm just not eating well. And but she's resolved and she's sitting there, and then, a little bit into conversation, she just absent-mindedly snatches something from a child's plate and shoves it in her mouth.
And what transformation happens to Betty or Nim?
I think you said there's bears, wolves, and
Any animal's a possibility in this with Hecate present. So any part of an animal. It's a Greek myth, so any weird combination you like is probably available.
I think she gets the other half of the horse. So rather than being horse bottomed, I think she's horse topped. So like her and Christus together, like it's like
Yes.
they have the opposite parts of a horse.
So your head turns into the head of a horse.
Yeah,
Do you have the hooves of a horse? The front hooves?
I think so.
Yeah. All right.
But like normal from the waist down.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah.
Yes, you are transformed to everyone's amazement. Just as I'm thinking maybe something similar for Xenon. Do you want a bird head or do you want wings?
It was going for the wings thing, and I was
Yeah.
thinking, if we're going for hybrids, I feel like what has popped is kind of a mostly like a raven, but with like butterfly wings or something kind of incongruous.
Everyone's like, oh, what is that? Yes. Excellent. Lygia, you rolled as well.
Lygia, she succeeds. She prevails, and she just sits there and she stares at them. The first thing she says is, "You say you are afraid to consume meat in case it is one of your brethren." And then it's like the first transformation happened. "How are you certain that none of them have turned into plants? Perhaps you are consuming your brethren now.
What?
Perhaps this island is here to punish you, and you should cast yourself into the seas."
What? Several of the children stop eating the plants and look alarmed. I guess they wouldn't talk if they were plants and we wouldn't know.
Maybe you just can't hear them screaming because they don't have mouths.
Oh no.
You should feel bad about yourselves.
Lygia, your sophistication and your driving your aggression out at the others, you are able to prevent yourself from eating. You do notice yourself growing younger, though. Just so you know. I'll let you decide what that means to you. Excellent. And then Electo and Christus, neither of you even tried to stop from eating. So tell us what you become.
Do you want to go first?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I'd considered a number of possibilities here. But I think Charistus has just been very depressed, and he's been thinking a lot about the sea. And as he just devours this food that's in front of him, he notices himself losing his purchase. And his bottom half changes from being a horse to a seahorse. And so he just sort of comically topples over. And so he still has his upper body that's human, but he's now dragging around this concentric tail with fins on it.
Electo.
Electo, I think, eats just because feels very comforting to be surrounded by a child of the same age group and is calm, and then already in figure they're like, oh no, it's a spell. So I think Electo changes pretty heavily into mostly animal, and is gonna go with a large shepherd, but with the big paws, because she's still a teenager. So it's just a huge dog with the big paws. It's still flops sitting down and ears all freaky out.
Yes. With a barrel of meat. No.
Yeah.
Excellent. The children clap and they say, see, now you understand. It works even on heroes.
What is this? What has become of my precious hindquarters?
Perhaps you
think
should
it's a
cast
good
yourself
look.
into the sea.
Ugh.
Phenom burps and a little fire comes out the beak.
Oh,
We hoped you would go and help us end this enchantment. See, this is the island of the witch Circe. She lives here.
Yes.
She lives here as always.
Bet you
Middle-
just make that sound, just like
Yeah. But here's like, what? Move. And then like crosses her hooves and is like, tell me more.
She lives here. She wants to turn the whole world like this, to bring magic to the world, and none of us can accomplish anything. She says all we accomplish are terrible things, but we deserve the choice.
Well, that's not true. And it puts the hands on the table. We
Can you
have
say
to.
that again in that voice?
Well, that's not true. We've had to solve the puzzle, the mystery.
If
Come
you
on,
wanted us to
gang.
help us, why didn't you warn us about the food? As you say, we can't accomplish much in our current forms.
You're not allowed to. The enchantment prevents us from warning any who come.
Why are enchantresses so good at the fine print?
They're so good at the fine print. It's, it's like
the
you have
god
to
of
really
law.
have your stuff together to.
I will be rid of this enchantment, or many will perish by my hand.
mm-hmm.
You mean
definitely-
So
like
I have
that.
heard tale of Circe, and terrible enchantments, but boy, she's got her own style. She's very creative. She's just really seen as like a cutting edge. She's
Well,
You're saying this is trendy. This is trendy.
wait. What happened to our sailors?
Batir, are you making a mockery of me right now with this visage of yours?
No, I just for one thing, I did not choose my form. I want you to know that. But no, I've been a fan of Circe's. I'm not saying I am now at all, but I'm saying I've admired her work for a while.
Did you bring your sailors with you?
I think we left them on the beach.
It was
but-
still early in the morning,
yeah.
and they had a house that they had built, so they seemed well accounted for in the house.
I just don't know if they would have felt the call and have also been transformed, because Lygia is like, oh no, if they have, then we need to break the curse because I can't sail the boat on my own. Otherwise, she is like, I see no
Otherwise,
problem
she's like,
here.
oh, it's fine.
Ever the utilitarian.
Okay. Game over. And they lived weirdly ever after.
I don't think the sailors would follow her. She's like, now take me away from here.
So tell us then, if you want us to help break this curse, where is this Circe? What do you know of her? Why would she release the enchantment?
Well, we're afraid to go even ask her because of the monster in the maze, in the labyrinth.
Oh, of course there's a labyrinth.
There's always a labyrinth.
Yes.
Is it a
Monster?
labyrinth or a maze? That's what I
Technically,
always want to
We
know.
prepared an answer for this, for we know that Charistus always asks this. It is, in fact, a
see.
labyrinth.
Okay.
Long labyrinth, but there's no choices to make.
And the creature at the center of it, is it a minotaur?
Well, not exactly. The minotaurs are outside the labyrinth.
Oh. So what's in the
Is-
labyrinth?
The worst monster of all.
A human?
Yes.
Oh. Normally people don't agree with me when I say that.
An adult man.
You are correct. That is the worst monster.
He's
Now that we've taken care of the irony, could we perhaps take care of this
he
person
guards
that's
Circe. He's the only one that Circe allows to stay a man here on our island. please, go and ask Cersei. Fight your way or talk your way, we care not, but please let her know we want to go home and be humans again, and even if we do terrible things.
Yes, I think we should go and see and meet Cersei.
Well, we don't have much of a choice. This doesn't seem like a tenable position, so we'll be on our way.
Yay!
Christus is just glaring at Batir. Like, he does not approve of either her attitude or her shape.
Do you need some help, Charistus?
I do not need any help. I am fine on my own. And he starts, like, just pulling himself by his arms.
Am I big enough
and,
that I could, like, fly with
flopping.
him if I needed to?
I think it would be tough to actually fly with a seahorse man.
I'm still like full centaur weight, I think.
I've got a. Hey, gay. This is my
well then I would like to. I'd like to instruct. So, I want to take a page from a cartoon I enjoyed. That obviously Xenon has not seen this, but I would like to instruct the children how to help me kind of knock down some trees that we can use as kind of a rollerboard for our friend. Essentially, let's build him a skateboard.
Charistus is incredibly insulted by all of this. Like he's already like he's not even sure he's going in the right direction.
Charistus, don't give me that look. You heard them. Jungle. They said that some of them have been here for 10 years. If we let you scoot your way to that labyrinth, their families will be dead by the time we fix this.
I will be dead before 10 years hence if I am forced to maintain this cursed form.
That's why we want to get you on the little board.
No, I do not condescend to me.
Because Hephaestus, this is an action that pleases Hephaestus, and Hephaestus is in favor now. I don't think we need a challenge. I think you're pretty quickly able, other than squawking occasionally, to instruct the children in building a suitable structure to carry Charistus. And some children push him onto it. I imagine.
Charistus like resists, but not very effectively, and eventually just like he just like goes limp and like lets them.
Charistus, if you lean just so, you can use your fin to move. And you're self-propelled.
I will keep my own counsel on how I move.
Oh, Charistus!
He begins like rolling himself. Very like. He's just like fuming.
Very well. They point you in the general direction. They say it's the top of the hill, just several Krellin leagues toward the center of the island. The lot of you are probably able. They're willing to send a bear with you if you need help carrying the pulling. But probably you all can manage to get through. In fact, there seems to be a rough, not often used, but there is a bit of a path that leads in that direction. And I'm hearing you say you go, and you continue along the path until it opens up a bit, and you come to sort of the entrance to a cavern. And there's a river nearby. It's very lush here, and you see what looks like. Well, you probably know what looks to you like maybe river nymphs, and several, probably about 20 small minotaurs running around, like bumping each other in the head, and sort of playing. And the river nymphs are trying to keep them under control, but having trouble.
Are they playing or are they frolicking?
I'd say they're frolicking, but aggressively frolicking.
Aggressively frolicking.
Did you know my uncle's a minotaur? He is.
Do you say that bit here?
Yeah.
Oh. Family.
I do not like how happy you are with this place, Batir. As happy as you are, I am furious. And I just want you to know that and carry that with you.
I think you look very handsome with the fish tail.
Again,
I am in I'm enjoying having a different life experience by having a horse body, mostly a half horse body.
So is the river blocking our way, or is
No, it's just
along
It's
the
just a
side?
nice river and some nymphs.
just
It's
a
very
nice river.
picturesque.
Just some background.
So are the Minotaurs going to stop us from going in the labyrinth, or?
They're pretty small. Although you may be smaller now too, but they don't look like it. In fact, as you approach the one of the nymphs looks up and says, "Oh, can you please help us? We're unable to wrangle these creatures. It's beyond us. Circe has asked too much of us. How can we take care of our river and parent these minotaurs ourselves?"
Turn them into fish. I mean, that would work. It worked for our friend Charistus here. He's never been happier.
Do not test me, Alecto.
Well, nymphs, we tend to the river. We have no magics of our own. Circe's asked us to convince the minotaurs to go into the labyrinth. That's their natural environment, but they're scared of the man inside.
Is the man doing anything to scare them, or is it just the fact that he's a human man and that doesn't usually bode well for minotaurs?
Well, he insists on fighting something for glory. And the children are terrified. We've sent a couple to wrestle with him, but he shouts at them, says the most horrible things. They run away every time.
Yes. Well, it sounds like this man is a menace.
Two things to consider. Have you tried putting the children Minotaur in the river or the man in the river?
Well, we did, in fact, put the man in the river. Circe ordered us to bathe him when he came. He was most unpleasant about it and did not appreciate the bathing.
Did you
Does not
consider
like water.
submerging in the river for an extended period of time?
Oh, no, we were not. Circe would be most angry if we merged him with the river. She wishes to keep him alive for, well, you know Circe.
She wishes to keep him alive and yet also wishes the Minotaurs to prey on him?
She just wishes the Minotaurs to be trained in fighting in labyrinths.
Oh.
She has a whole thing about how monsters need to be populating the whole world and take
this
over
is a
from
training
humans.
labyrinth.
Yes, that was the intent, I suppose.
I would just like to say it is a common misconception that all minotaurs want to be in a maze or a labyrinth, and I just
Yeah, I want to be in a field of crops, and I want to be in a gully.
I wish I had had children.
I am so glad I did not.
By a show of hands, how many of you small creatures would be interested in taking this fighting into the labyrinth?
Oh, they look scared. Not if the man's in there. He's scary and he smells bad. He has an ugly head.
What if I made him look silly?
That'd be funny. Yeah, they get pretty excited by that and they bump each other in the head.
Well, I'm a bird. I would like to invite some of the little minotaurs to hop up on my back and then fly over above the giant man and poop on him.
The
not
labyrinth,
giant
to be
man,
clear, is a cavern, so it's
Oh, we're in a
built
cavern. We're not
into
outside,
this,
so I
it's
can't
built
fly.
into this hill. You're outside it now, but it looks like an indoor labyrinth.
Ah!
I have a solution. Would these minotaurs do it for a minotaur snack? Perhaps if we all pass the snack out, we could have courage to go in together.
Well,
Zoinks!
One of the like slightly older minotaurs says, "I don't think there's a kitchen in that spooky old labyrinth."
No, but we do have snacks, and I assume there are somewhere. There's probably more Cersei snacks somewhere. Or Hecate, sorry, or what? No, Cersei, I was correct. I'm just saying, like perhaps 2 Minotaur snacks.
Ironbender Xenon, what shall we do? Shall we enlist these children to enter the...
It seems to me that if we could convince these Minotaur to come in with us, then they could be effective against the human that's there. But that's only if we could persuade them to go. Xenon, what do you think?
Yeah, let's persuade them. Let's convince them of our ability to embarrass the man in the middle so much that they will have no fear in taking him on. Embarrassment is the way forward.
I mean, he sounds like an awful person, so I would enjoy watching them destroy him.
So you would like to convince the children to go into the labyrinth with you to face the man?
Yes, we want to pitch a plan to embarrass, at least I would propose we pitch a plan to embarrass the man in the middle. So instead of being afraid, we shall make him seem so silly together that he will no longer be a threat.
Yeah. I'm going to combine you convincing them and getting through the labyrinth to the center into one sort of challenge, and then we'll handle what happens in the center with a second challenge if we need to. So who will rise to assist getting these 20 Minotaur children through a labyrinth to face a human?
I, Electo, pure-hearted and strong-limbed, will use my resolve in spirit to tempt the Minotaurs deeper in, and I will also call upon Hecate to provide Minotaur snacks.
All right, let's see how Hecate's doing.
I, clever-eyed Batir Nim, will call upon my mother, Medusa, Queen of Gorgons, to deliver these children safely to the labyrinth.
Yes. Any others?
I, Ironbender Xenon, shall draft a complex plan for the group of how many baby Minotaurs are there? 20?
20.
20. To join forces against their common opponent.
All right.
I, a suasive voice, Lygia, will convince them of our ability to defeat their true nemesis, the man in the middle, so that they will have no fear in gorging out his eyes with their horns.
I, stout-finned Charistus, will see us to the center of this labyrinth or to the depths of hell.
Oh my god.
Since I'm gonna say this, it's a labyrinth, not a maze, so reasons may be less important here than your ability to corral and keep these children. Hecate is suddenly you feel become much stronger. You feel the sense that perhaps a balance on this island has shifted. So I'm going to make this rather than a reason, I believe it's going to be, I'm going to call it Resolve in Spirit to kind of combine those. I think it's neither arts, oration, or craft. So it looks like it's not going to be too tough, though. It's a 9, so let's see how that works out for you. The Minotaur children are kind of excited by you all. They keep looking at your different weird body parts and like cheering and arguing about which one's the best as you all try to meet this challenge. The river nymphs seem appreciative. They, not being human, immediately kind of pull back into the river and lose all their attention on these children.
When we call on a bond with someone, do we use their name die?
Yes.
Yes.
I think I will call upon one of my bonds with Batir Nim, mostly because I look to her understanding of children to maybe not say some of the things that I would normally say.
Awesome.
I am also calling on a bond with Batir Nim because she's fangirling and clearly the spirit is with her.
All right. Electo, we're going to start with you. Now, you're there faced by several children who are really excited by you. They're probably trying to rub your belly. Every once in a while, they poke you with one of their horns, but they're not that sharp.
No, they try their
They're kind of nubby horns because they're young minotaurs. But they're pretty excited by you. And you're outside the labyrinth. What do you do?
Well, Electo does go and get snacks. Like, canonically does get the Minotaur snacks. Electo calls upon Hecate, who brings more snacks to the space with her magic. However, she has to carry the food with her mouth. And she's a growing young pupper. So very little of the food actually gets to the Minotaurs. But enough to succeed.
Yes. Hecate is very strong, and you do find some a treat. They're called Hrothgars, little treats that is a well-known Greek word for bull treat. And you get enough of them back to the children, and they gather around and follow you into the beginning of the labyrinth. It's quite tall in here. The walls are very straight. Looks like it's certainly not rough walls, and the hallways extend very far before you. Now we go to looks like clever-eyed Batir Nim.
Batir is very excited to be around these little minotaurs, and she turns to a couple and she says, "Oh, my little monsters, I'm going to tell you a story." And she's like, I don't want you to be afraid of a labyrinth because my uncle, the Minotaur, was in a labyrinth. And she just starts regaling them with these stories that are probably going to be stories you would never want to tell a child. But yeah.
Yes. They're excited by your stories. Not being human children, they're kind of excited by very monster, scary stories. It gives them fun ideas that they might use in the future. And one's like, "You're a lot more. All the river nymphs wanted to talk about is water. Water this, water that." And you lead them further into the labyrinth. It grows colder. Some of the Minotaur children seem nervous and afraid a little bit. They gather closer to the party. And let's hear from who's next here?
I think it might be me.
I think Lygia first.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I was
There's
doing
two Minotaur children pulling at your
very
hands.
important change to the overlay.
Yes.
Just for Dan there. Lygia, seeing how Batir Nim is telling this story to the children and sort of explaining to them, sort of steps in and begins adding to this and talking about ways in which I have made men look foolish. There was one time when, and then looks at Batir and is like, "No, we don't talk about that." There was another time when I removed one's chiton in front of their friends, and they were standing there with no clothes on, and they were thoroughly embarrassed. You could see as their cheeks flushed red, not because they were being strangled, but because they were being embarrassed in front of the others.
Chitoning people is hilarious.
It is quite amusing, and that is what we can do to the man in the middle.
Really? We can pull this chiton down?
And
Cersei tries to do that all the time.
even more embarrassing things.
That's hilarious. Are you a monster?
Yes.
Yay! They all cheer.
It's okay.
Who is up? Looks like we are at.
Now
By the
it's
way,
Chris.
we have 14 correspondents.
Hecka yeah.
So just so you
All
know.
right, I'm going
That's
to
a-
use one.
Stout-finned Charistus.
Yes. Charistus, feeling deep shame, still knows what he must do. And he calls to one of the nymphs to join him from the river. He asks their name, and they say that they are Betty, daughter of Best. And he says, "Very well, Betty. I need you to come with me now to the entrance of the labyrinth." And he's not concerned at all with the Minotaurs. He just wants to get to the end of the labyrinth as efficiently as possible and clear out any obstacles on the way there. He pulls himself over to the entrance, pushes himself up, and then in an incredibly graceful leap, he pushes himself up and spins into a ball. And he calls from this ball form to Betty, "Push me." And she pushes him. And as he goes, he hits the first wall of the cave and feels his bones push up against it. And as he deflects off of it and ricochets down like that Marble Madness game, down it, hollering the whole way. And Betty, having observed such an incredibly heroic feat, evaporates in a mist of glory.
Yes.
Mist of glory.
Yes, so Charistus barrels ahead of you, setting off traps, opening up plates with spike hits, but his momentum is such none of them hits. And in fact, he lays bare the way for you to see those traps and probably overcome them. And you hear him shouting, echoing down the tunnels as the rest of you stay back with the Minotaur children. You're probably about halfway through the labyrinth at this point. Who is next?
I think that's me, or did Electo already win?
Electo went.
Yep, I think we are
Yeah.
on Iron Bender Xenon to get us the rest of the way through this.
Well, so prior to entering the labyrinth, while formulating a plan, we want the Minotaurs to play an important role in the embarrassment of the man at the center of the maze. So calling upon Batir, who now has the great chomping power of a horse, thanks to the transformation, asked Batir's help to pull what could act as rope off of some of the palm trees nearby, and working with Batir and maybe one or two of the small. We've instructed people on how to burning a little bit of pathos to talk people through some craft and reason constructed what I like to call the catapult, which is a mechanism that will allow our Minotaurs to participate. So we head through the tunnel, and we see Charistus clearing the way, and the Minotaurs are really excited. And as we see Charistus heading for the man, Charistus is a large pinball right now, so it's easy for the man to kind of plan and avoid because he's not a trap. But while he's so distracted with Charistus, I turn to the little Minotaur children we've been leading up, and I say, "It's time!" And they start one by one hopping onto my bird butt, and then I fling them up over my head and towards the man in the middle. So, and we kind of alter the angles. So there's just Minotaurs flying at him from everywhere. So he can't dodge them all. This is not there. One or two decide to go for the ankles because they're scared of heights, but for the most part, this is an all-on assault from every kind of angle. And because several of them are coming from above, it's very easy for them to take the inspiration they received earlier and unfasten the chiton and cause said gentleman to be laid bare to the world. and he stands there in the cold, and he makes a unearthly little sound like that no one expected. And all the Minotaur laugh. They are having a great time. He is silly. This man is silly. He is not a threat.
Yes, they all cheer and they pull out tiny little tritons. They laugh at him and they run up and they poke him in the legs and the rear end. And he shouts out, he's like, "This isn't, stop! I'm a warrior. I will do battle with you. Don't you understand? Who will face me?"
Oh, we're facing you.
Leave my chiton on before I face anybody.
Who are you?
I'm
Declare yourself.
I'm Pericles the Bold, warrior, here to seek glory. That's
You
all
are
I'm allowed to
indeed
do.
boldly bared right now.
Yes. Is it not enough? I'm humiliated, forced to drink wine and be bathed by nymphs every day. I only wish to go make war and make a name for myself.
What does Cersei want with you here?
Oh, what she always wants to company, talk. She wants to talk for hours about feelings and...
Really?
Yes.
Did we just see little heart eyes on Batir's face? What?
Yes.
So like horse.
Yeah.
Horse.
Oh yeah.
It's a horse face. Heart eyes. Horse face.
I'm exhausted. I haven't fought anything or anyone in almost 2 years.
Would it make you feel better if I fought you?
Yes. Would you like to challenge me to a battle?
I would, yes.
If you defeat me, I will give you access to Cersei's palace.
Yeah?
Yes, and if I defeat you, I get to tell everybody how I defeated somebody. You have to tell everybody, everywhere you go, that I defeated you.
It just occurred to me. I am horse-faced.
Yes, I thought you were a monster.
But I have given that curse to Athena time and time again, and now I am myself horse-faced. And if you defeat me, you will describe me as Batir Nim, the horse-faced follower of Hecate, daughter of Poseidon and Medusa.
Yes.
Then do not lose, Batir.
Oh.
Very well, I will face you in battle. Hold on. May I put my chiton on, please? Stares at the half seahorse laying on the ground, pulls his chiton out from under it. This whole time, by the way, his midsection is cleverly covered by like sections of Labyrinth because this is a PG-13 show.
Or like a Minotaur that just jumps up and is
Yeah.
at the right height for
Yes.
just the amount of time that the camera shot lasts.
It's always from like here up for the most part.
Yeah. He pulls his chiton out, and you see there's an array of weapons he has all about the walls. He says, "I will face you, but only after break."
There.
So we're going to take a quick break before we come back to our final round of to find out how this all is going to resolve itself. Let me very quickly read out a couple more donations we had from a Vasco the Gamer. In the name of the moon, I hope that honor will be brought upon all our heroes. Yes, I believe that's Hecate.
Thank you, Vasco.
And from Hrothgar, I have gold because I believe we have met our goal of $500. So thank you, and a cent. And then yet another Dema has appeared. Just rounding out some numbers, and I'll say Hecate and Hephaestus are currently evenly matched. The first time we've gone into our last hour in that situation, so so we'll see how that's going to resolve itself, because I think both have a strong interest in how this all works out. Thank you so much for your donations, and we will be back in 5.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I need to put a thing on this scene that's on the other scene, so we're gonna do that in a hot second.
Chill for a second.
But we are. I believe someone is about to do battle, so let us do that.
Fight.
Yes. Betier Nim has challenged the man at the center of the Minotaur, Bericles, to battle, which excites him greatly. He's been wanting to fight for a long time, and he's currently looking through his various weapons he has on the wall, trying them out, trying to decide what he wants to fight you with. He seems like, he hasn't gotten a fight in a long time, so he's like worried about not getting it right.
Bericles, can you tell me what the house rules are? Are we limited to short range melee weapons?
Any weapon you wish to use. Ideally, we don't kill each other, but if we do, then that's how it goes. That's what Ares wants. And there would be some loss of honor should we actually kill each other. But the winner, the loser shall proclaim the winner's name from this day forward, wherever they go.
Agreed.
Yes, excellent.
Betier goes to pull her knife from her waist and realizes that she has horse hooves. And has a moment of,
She like try to.
Yes. Is something wrong with your hooves, horse lady?
Well, I am not normally horse-faced. It is this island that has cursed me so. Not that there's anything wrong with having a horse face. I have friends who are horses. My brother is actually a Pegasus, who Perseus does ride, and I am assuming without consent he doth ride, but it may be with. I'm not sure. Anyway, my point is, I'm not normally like this,
do you need
but I'm
assistance
fine
with holding your weapon? Do you need help? Perhaps Xenon, you could craft some sort of device to affix the weapon to Betier.
We can. I whispered to a few of the mini minotaurs and ask them to untie the crotapult, which was or the catapult, which was very successful, and try to reuse that rope with the help of the minotaurs, because I am a bird and I don't have hands, to try to lash additional weapons to the hooves so that you could still use them. And so there's you've got some spikes. Some things are pointed out this way, and then there's you were reaching for a knife or a club. Which one would you want for your right hand?
I mean, she'd prefer her knife.
Excellent. So the knife, we fashion that.
You have giant horse hooves with a knife. Just rope to it.
I mean, Xenon didn't come to your help originally because she was they were
yeah.
You have hooves. That's great, but if you want the knife, you got the knife.
I think she wants a cloppy and a stabby. You know?
Is this
the good old clop and stab.
Is this perhaps shaping up to be a challenge that we all might partake in?
I think you can all assist. It sounds like Ironbender Xenon is going to assist in this. You can choose to. I think it might lower the honor of the fight should any of you actually engage in the fight.
So this is a duel then?
Yes, but you can assist if you choose.
Do you have any advice for Betier about operating hooves?
Aristus emerges from his crumpled up ball and is I, stout-finned Charistus, will assist in finding the prize at the center of the alphabet. And then he flops back down again.
No advice. Noted.
Okay. No, that's fair. It's okay.
All right.
Let us fight.
All right. Well, you can use their assistance if you choose.
I will offer you support in the form of, you can do it. You can murder him. I have faith in you. And then you can meet your one true love or idol. I'm not really sure your emotional attachment to Cersei.
She's.
Yeah. She's something.
I'll be a good dog. Let me get to talk. And so like what Alecto does is start grabbing weapons and like fetching them and then dropping them. So my support is meaning Barifius doesn't have as many weapons to choose from because there's a good pile.
You're just stealing from him?
No, I'm fetching. Zoinks! Sorry, I have to get back on the character.
All right. Yeah, I trot into the ring. Let's see.
So you have my arts and oration die, which is a D8.
Okay.
That you can add in.
You have my resolve and spirit die, which is a D8.
Ooh.
Oh,
I
have
don't
my
think you have. I don't think you have anything from Charistus.
There we go.
Tony, is my target number a 12?
It is a 12, yes.
Okay,
Sorry for the other rolls. I forgot one thing.
Just putting in my numbers.
Are we giving our name die or do we give our craft die or like our domain die?
It's name die.
I think if we take Pathos, they can add though.
Oh,
I see.
So that's what I was doing with the Resolve
I
and
see.
Spirit. So that she would get a
Yes.
D6
Yes.
and then I would take Pathos. So then at the end, she could add a D8. Is that correct, Strife? There.
Yes, Bericles has chosen a gigantic hammer. It's like so big he like has it like spins him around when he tries to swing it. He's picking it up. He's like pounding it on the ground to get himself ready. The Minotaur children are cheering. They've been emboldened by the Kaitoning. Clever-Eyed Betier, give us your roll. It looks like you've rolled. And the first thing that happens, by the way, is an owl suddenly flies out of the darkness and just like smacks you in the face right as you start the fight. It seems you may have angered somebody.
That's fair. It's fair. Yeah, I think she is just very distracted, but more like not hurt, but just insulted by the owl. And so she starts to circle Bericles. First takes her first swing of the knife round one way and the hoof comes around the other. It's pretty clear that she's just trying to get a handle on it because her swing really takes her around and she's like, oh!
You call that fighting, horse woman?
You are lucky that I do not call down my magics, that I am fighting civilized, where I will crush your skull and cut you open and bleed you out, rather than calling the wrath of the water god Poseidon.
Oh, Poseidon, I'm so frightened here, this far from the ocean.
She actually like leans forward and puts her weight on her hooves and kicks out her back legs to hit him in the chest. And basically, I mean, it's the wrong end of the horse to do that with, but she still manages to connect.
So with your human feet?
Yeah.
Ugh, ow. Yes.
And I think
you've knocked him back pretty far, and he's trying to pick his hammer up again.
Yeah, I think she with him down, she follows him, and in kind of a moment of just like frustration over the fight, she bites him.
What the? Ow! Ow! Let go! And you bite him like where do you bite him?
And the arm.
In
Yeah.
the arm.
Yeah.
He
Like the
tries.
one that's trying to grab the hammer, she just bites his arm.
He tries to lift the hammer up, but he just can't. And he drops it. He says, "Fine, I yield." Ugh.
Spits his arm out then.
Ow! That hurt.
Are you okay?
Yes, your horse face is very fearsome. I don't understand why you consider it an insult at all.
I don't either. I've learned a lot today.
I shall forevermore proclaim how Horseface Betir Nim defeated me in battle. I shall tell everybody who will listen that Horseface Betir Nim is a great warrior.
Did we make all the best olives?
Your fishman, your merman is
Pericles, you fought well. I shall tell everyone you fought with honor.
Really? You would do that? Did I fight
Yes.
well?
You did fight well.
I haven't gone soft.
Because I am half horse, and I am, and the other half of me is monster, and so you did not stand much of a chance.
Oh, well, thank you for saying that. It's been a long time. I now owe you gateway to Cersei.
Well, thank you.
If you're sure you wish to face her.
Yes.
All right, we'll see how much you like magic after this. And he walks over to the one place on the wall there is no weapon. And he picks up a small bell and rings it and says, "Dear, I'm ready." And there's a flash of light, and all of you, Minotaur children, weapons, everything, appears in a very nice sort of airy, tented, a tented tent.
Double tent.
Like perhaps you would guess above the labyrinth. And there are animals with like trays of wine on their backs. Men in very little clothing, but just enough to remain PG-13, with pawn fronds, and women carrying things around. At the center sits a beautiful woman dressed in robes. She has birds attending to her, and she seems unsurprised by your appearance. She says, "Well, some of my creatures have come to court."
We are not
passage
of you. We are not owned by you. We come to discuss the terms of release.
Of your release?
And those who long to return to their lives. You know, there are so many who would willingly join you here in this palace of splendors, but those who you snared have families to return to. Wouldn't you prefer to send your siren call out into the world and bring truly adoring creatures into your court?
Give me my damn hooves back.
He's not very good at fins.
I don't wish that at all. I wish for animals and creatures and beasts to control the world, not people who build things, not makers such as yourself who would unmake the natural world. It's a travesty what you do. You tear apart the world as meant to be and build it in your own mortal image. It's horrifying, and I would send nobody back to that.
Oh, so this tent is a natural form, is it? The bottles in which the wine is being poured, are those natural forms? You'd pick and choose what you want, but your position is no more noble than mine.
Perhaps not, but I have the power to make it happen, and therefore I make it right. Yes, I didn't say I wish to be a beast myself, merely that all else should be. I am harmless here on my island. I don't wage war on anybody. I merely return things to their natural state.
You may
Well.
tell yourself fairy tales, but you do no one any favors. And we are here to stop your tyranny over these people's lives. Their natural state is with their families. That is how nature works, regardless of whether or not they are fisher people or makers or farmers.
Stop me. We'll see about that. And she snaps her fingers, and immediately flashes of light hurl themselves toward you. Who will face this final? It may be a battle. Maybe you'll choose to face it differently. I don't know. But currently, magic seem to be being hurled at you. And before we do this, I'm going to check out just to make sure where we are. Yep, it seems like the forces of Hephaestus and the forces of Hecate are even with each other. Magic's being hurled toward you. How do you face this? And this is just to remind you, this is our final battle. So for this first part, each of you can choose your own way of how you face this initial part as you try to gain advantage. And we'll start with you.
I, Ironbender Xenon, shall recruit a few of the various creatures around me and try to wield the maker style things, the artificial things in the world against her.
Very well. Who else will face this challenge?
I, clever-eyed Betir Nim, daughter of Medusa and Poseidon, follower of Hecate, will call upon my magics to undo Circe.
Very well. Who else?
I, Eclecto, pure-hearted and strong-pawed, will, using support of the chorus, will use my resolve to simply will the magic away. Yes. Oh, with divine favor of Poseidon and his fortitude.
Yes. And who else?
I, a suasive voice, Lygia, will. There are many men around. You said, addressed
Yes,
PG-13
men and
appropriately.
women.
Men and women. Well, I shall bring them to our side by, PG-13 seducing them. Using the divine favor of Aphrodite and the soft lilting sounds of my voice.
Yes.
I, stout-finned Charistus, scion of Chiron himself, with the cunning that is gradually returning to my addled mind, shall ensnare this witch in the name of Apollo.
Yes, and Circe, daughter of Apollo, worshipper of Hecate, enchantress, casts her magics at you. Let's roll this and see where we are. All right, the target's going to be this. It's 10. Make your rolls, choose your domains, use all your resources. I think we have 12 bonds available still from the
I am
chorus.
definitely calling upon a bond. I definitely spot someone in the crowd whose attention I seek.
I'm going to need 2 bonds.
Ooh.
Oh.
And then I am...
Right.
I will also use 1 bond.
How?
I'm just going to go ahead and make a guess that we should, while the rest of you roll, Charistus, tell us how things went.
Charistus, he's still a little dizzy from all of his bouncing through the labyrinth. But despite that, he gets up unevenly on his fish hindquarters and holds his staff aloft and calls, "Apollo, guide my will that I may ensnare this creature." And materializing in his hand is an electo snack, which he holds out to Electo and says, Go, Electo, go! And he tosses it, and Electo immediately like pounces after it. And uh, while the Cersei is distracted by Electo, he tries to just smash at her with his staff, but still being addlepated, he swings wide and just crashes it into the ground.
Would you say he is finished?
Yes.
Yes, I can see I shall have to finish the transformation one way or the other. You're useless on both halves right now. Who's next?
I believe it is me.
Yes.
Electo, after being thoroughly distracted, goes "Arr!" and eats the snack. And then I, from for support, reaching out, just Electo hears, "Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy?" And Electo goes like, and hops around very excitedly to pump Electo up. And then Electo, with that power, stands strong, says, "Simply, I am strong and not afraid." And then thunder happens, and so Electo actually jumps into Carissa's arms. However, is too heavy, and that's I think what causes Carissa to fall down. It's not his own act. It was Electo jumping in for support.
Yes.
He's just like tackled just as he's winding up for his swing.
In the arms. It's like it's convenient. It's an Electo.
I'm gonna have to improve.
Does she lick his face?
Oh, definitely.
So, Ironbender Xenon, as was mentioned before, it's a double tent. So there's like the main tent, and then there's like a decorative, sort of canopy there. And so Ironbender Xenon, while this begins to go on, recruits. There's two other. There's a Demolition Gamma and a Demolition Epsilon, and there's but can't seem to gather anyone else. Needs 4 folks, and kind of scooches Caristus using a bond back onto the skateboard, and the 4 of us head for the 4 supports of the canopy to drop it upon Cersei and surprise them, and help them return the tent to its natural state.
Is this a demolition of the tent?
It is the demolition of the tent.
The demolitions and you succeed. The supports are knocked out. And Cersei is quite the enchantress, but not all that crafty. So she's not really built in much redundancy in her load-bearing support. So the tent collapses on, I imagine, onto all of you. But the magics are sort of diverted by that when they hit the surface. And you hear her cursing somewhere under the canvas. Who is next?
I think it's me. Clever-eyed Batir uses the falling of the tent as an opportunity, and she calls upon her magics to pull the edges of the tent close and basically cover up Cersei in this like ball of canvas. And she says to Cersei, I thought you were a legend, but in reality, you seem very bored and very boring here. And, well, I just feel like you're not living up to your potential.
Says, I am bored, dear. You wait till you're as old as I am. You'll see. She does seem very bored. She doesn't even seem angry at all of this. She seems mildly excited that something is happening. But it does distract her for a moment, and she you can see her sort of moving about under the tent.
As Cersei has been concealed under the tent, under this sort of collapsed canvas, Lygia first makes very clear eye contact with one Vasco, an individual who has been so far serving Cersei, and very direct eye contact, and says, "Free yourselves from the shackles of Cersei's magics. Join our side. You will find honor and glory upon the seas there." And sort of begins to hypnotize them, and then scans the rest of the crowd of individuals and say, "All of you, come to us. Come to us, and Cersei will have no hold, no magic, no power over you, and you will find yourselves blessed by the deep, dark ocean, never wanting, never needing for anything other than its cold embrace."
Everybody seems disturbed, especially Cersei. They shrink back in fear. And somehow your teenage form is even angstier and more disturbing.
Like hair plastered
Yes.
over her face. Like somehow she got eyeliner.
And it is enough to give you quite the advantage in the start of this fight. Cersei, each of you sort of work your way out from under the canvas, whereas Cersei is still underneath the canvas. And she says, "Very well, I was bored, but I can see maybe you're right. Maybe I do need to make my life more interesting. I think it's time to permanently put my magic into effect. I shall bind everyone on this island in their current form. I shall send my magic out into the world to do the same other places. And for your impertinence, I shall feed your ship to that serpent that has come after you."
Not Chippy McShipface.
Yes, I shall feed it to. I refuse to humor you. I shall use a lizard's real name, Cataclysmos. Unless you can stop me. She's just going to be hoping you will. You get to now choose, each of you, to whether you want to defend against one of these three things. The permanently binding all the people on the island. That might not include you, but it will certainly include, if your sailors are animals, you don't know, it will include them. It will include all the children and animals on the island. She's going to send that magic into the world to turn other people into beasts and children again permanently, to help destroy civilization. And she's going to destroy Chippy McShipface. So you'll have to decide what to defend against, or you can choose to seize in this next competition.
I, Ironbender Xenon, will defend against the many threats that this pretender poses. I shall not let her sully the good name of building stuff.
Yes. Anybody else? Hephaestus is here and shouts his approval in the form of a clap of thunder.
The glory to you, Hephaestus.
I, Electo of Pure Heart and Strong Paws, will defend so that no one is a child unless they are a child.
I, clever-eyed Batir Nim, will defend as well, and I was not tracking on which one was left.
I think it doesn't matter too much. You can decide when you make the rolls.
We have two defenders, 3 defenders now?
3 defenders.
Yeah. All right. That is everybody. Excellent.
I think
Yeah,
I,
so-
a suasive
to
voice
us.
Lygia, will seize the moment. I don't care much for other people, and I am mad at Cersei for making me look like a teenager. I've already been cursed by one person. I will not be cursed more.
Yes.
Mom.
I, stout-finned Charistus, am incensed at the notion that she would dare threaten Shippy McShipface after all we have been through, and I still clearly have trauma relating to the sea. I will also seize and attempt to put a swift end to this witch.
Now, would you say your actions? I'm gonna kind of let you decide how you're going about this. Is this like are you gonna physically try to stop her, or are you going to try to talk her out of it? Are you gonna?
I'm going to try to physically stop her by some kind of craftiness.
Okay.
I would definitely try and talk her out of it. I'd convince her to use her magics for some other purpose.
All right. How about the rest of you for defending? How do you plan on? Would you say?
I am leaning in to my craft and reason. I shall use the tools of Hephaestus against her to prove that the two sides can coexist.
I will summon my magics because I want her to see my magic and know what I can do. So she can notice me.
Notice me, senpai.
I'm gonna overall go with craft and reason here because Xenon's your leader, and I'm hearing a lot of that. So it is a 15. You're gonna have to overcome here.
Okay.
So.
We could do it.
Now you do
team.
have a number of corresponds left to use still, so I suggest you make use of them.
Should defenders roll first? And
Yes,
then
let's hear
Caesars?
let's hear what you're defending against.
I think you can
I thought
roll
we
and then do
picked
it.
that
When we
once
get to
we
your
roll.
turn. Yeah.
Okay. I gotta do the rolls.
I'm using a bond die.
I am using 2 bond dice, one with Batir to help me with magic, and the other one to take the pathos kill. Because you can
And-
use that bond to block.
That's true.
Just to let you know, you see a lot. You see, you're guessing that she has made her way under the tent. It's kind of lifted itself up, perhaps through some enchantment, and she seems to have stumbled over to where you saw a large cauldron before, under the canvas. You see sort of light and vapors emerging from that area.
Gio, what's your name die?
My name die just became a D8. I got enough glory on the last roll.
And Tony, I would like to use Xenon's theorem to help me calculate the best way to use her materials against her.
Yeah, this is a
equal.
perfect chance to use Xenon's theorem, so I'm going to give that a D12.
Thank you.
Nice.
Perfect one-time use of it. So,
What I do?
Oh, Jackie Dash.
No.
I missed it by 1.
No.
all right, let's hear from Bet here. Actually, we'll go with Electo first this time. What do you try to defend against?
Electo tries to stop the entire world from being turned into monsters. So Electo thinks and uses Batir's magic and tries to stand on the ground. Of course, the paws are too big, so Electo starts to fall, and then is falling and head over heels down the hill, and it's like, oh, I'll use the wisdom from Athena, her divine, to use that actual little cliff haze to then go and loop back around and try to knock over the cauldron, very much Hanna-Barbera style, but does miss. And thankfully, using a bond from Xenon, lands on one of the Minotaurs who Xenon brought, caught it. So Electo gets no damage, but obviously fails.
Yeah, and it makes that noise as you your feet run on the air, you tumble over. Yes, and the Minotaur you land on is like, oh. Yes, you failed to stop her so far, but we've got 2 more defenders who have a chance to stop something. Betty or Nim, what do you try to stop?
Let's see. We had the threat of the sea creature, right? And then the threat of everybody on the island staying in their current form.
And you can still try to defend against magic being released in the world and turning lots of people into monsters and children.
That does seem like the
table.
worst of it. Yeah, she'll what?
Boat.
Yeah, I think Batir calls upon her magic, and she's like, I shall protect the boat I shall call upon my magic and build like a barrier around the ship. And so she does like a sailor casting his net. That's kind of like what you see like go over the ship. And I think she's like, oh, this is going to be like protective and perfect. And I think what it does is actually calls the ship into attention of like, I think the ship was, ported pretty safely. And after she does this, she kind of realizes she's essentially lit the ship up and put a target on it.
Yes, it was moored, and now you feel the attentions of divine powers shift onto Shippy McShipface.
So the distraction caused by Batir's shift of that great beacon does give a gift in that it distracts Cersei's attention, and the temptation is too great, and she shifts her spellcasting ever so briefly to calling forth Cataclysmos, and at this point time slows down for Xenon, because this is an affront to everything Xenon stands for. The craft can be used to better the condition of the human race. Random butterfly wings are not improving the condition of the human race. So Xenon calls upon Hephaestus, who seems to be smiling on them, and once again, and probably they sense for the last time, the code of the universe is visible. Like all of the distances, all of the angles, time slows down, and Xenon is able to see the wine bottles precariously stacked on the back of an elephant in the back of the tent, and is able to toss with their wing a stick that causes a bird to fly in a strange pattern, which scares the elephant, which causes the wine to flip up into the air and straight into the cauldron, ruining the rest of Cersei's machinations. They did manage to do some of the work, but Cersei was unable to complete the spell that would have enchanted the entire planet and bound them to these hybrid forms.
Yes, the pieces collapse against each other, and a large chunk falls in, like a good iceberg, like a good berg falls into the cauldron. Sorry, I tried to force it, but it didn't work out. Interrupting the spell. And Hephaestus himself does seem to appear for a moment. You see everything, but evenly matched off the coast in the distance. You all suddenly look up, and through the powers of the divine presence, you see Hecate appear above Shippy McShipface. And she leads her hands, reaching toward I can't remember my poor creature's name.
Cataclysmos.
Cataclysmos, thank you. To Cataclysmos, who suddenly sees a way to the ship lift up by Hecate. And the creature pours toward your ship. Right before it arrives, Grimm appears and pulls themselves out of the ocean onto the ship and says, I survived, I swam, just as Cataclysmos devours the ship, and Grimm is again lost. As your second ship is completely destroyed. You also feel Cersei's magic, so they have not been able to escape the island, settle in. And you have you see her look about, and she says, I will try again, and now I'll have all the creature of this island to help me. But first, I must destroy you for your affront. She pulls herself out from the canvas, but that takes her long enough. In this final confrontation, we're gonna have to find out actually.
Seize first.
We still
Yes.
gotta see how it goes.
Because if we seize, we get to decide.
Yes.
What
And I used one chorus die, so the birds that helped me scare the elephant chittered a little. Hrothgar, Hrothgar, Hrothgar.
All right, as Lygia, we're still doing against Craft and Reason, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And is
I
it
will-
still 15?
Expend Pathos
Yes.
to add Arts and Oration. I, Lygia, daughter of Calliope, the muse, will call upon my bond with my mother to bring her divine presence here.
Yes.
We'll see how that goes. Yes, and that's 1d12 because she is a deity.
That was unfortunate.
And but should I spend divine? I feel like I will also spend divine favor for the cunning of Hera.
Please spend divine favor.
Yeah, because you failed.
Based
I don't
on, yes.
wanna. Okay.
While she rolls this, Charistus, why don't you tell us how your attempts to stop her go as you try to seize the advantage?
Charistus is furious and he is sad at the death of Shippy McShipface, with no thought at all for the sailor who was on it. But he cared deeply for that ship. He's not in a good place right now with his trying to balance himself up on his seahorse fins. He holds his staff and speaks to it, and he says to it, "Apollo, your daughter has gone too far. You must give me the strength to rein her in." And he calls on Xenon to help him as he begins casting the material of the tent around to attempt to contain Cersei, and the inventing new patterns of shapes that had not been possible before, creating a paradoxical container that can seal her away. But alas, it is not done quickly enough, and she is able to escape from it.
Yes, and she does. She pulls herself out she's just pulling out from under the lip of the canvas when Lygia has a chance to act.
As she's doing that, Lygia, who has largely, I think as the magic begins to settle in, she becomes more teenage-like. It's just, look, if it is boredom that you are experiencing and it is inspiration that you seek, Mom! Maybe a muse can set you straight. And at that moment, we hear like the sound of a lyre as it sort of like ring, and emerging from the mists is the form of Calliope, the leader of the muses, who comes forward and probably starts scolding her daughter. She's like, look, she's just being really obnoxious and she's super bored, so maybe you can inspire her or something. I just wanted to drown people, and this is what I have to deal with. And then I feel like Calliope plays the lyre once again, and passes on inspiration for alternative things that Cersei can do with her magic. And Lygia just stands there, arms crossed. See?
Yes. And as Calliope leaves, all the other men and women who surround this place burst out into harmonized singing uncontrollably, just from Calliope's outright presence, distracting them and distracting Cersei long enough that you do, in fact, seize advantage of this next. You have a chance to sort of decide how you're going to approach this final contest. It might be battle, it might be convincing her. And I believe, I think that actually goes to the person who seizes the battle. So, Lygia. How do you wish to end this conflict?
Teenage Lygia solves all of her problems the way adult Lygia would solve them, which is she's like, all right, everyone, let's feed her to the monster.
All right, blood and valor it is.
Okay.
I did not see that coming.
Yeah, drown her, but her intention is feed Cersei to I already forgot. Then
Cataclysmo.
Cataclysmo. You're the one who remembered last time. Cersei says, you would feed me, Cersei, worshipper of Hecate, daughter of Apollo, to a mere sea creature. I have much greater fate ahead of me than that.
But you love creatures so much.
They're natural.
Yeah. If you love them so much, why don't you get eaten by one?
Yeah!
Really?
Oh, wow.
that was a rough one. I'm not gonna lie, that's a rough one.
Let's kill Cersei, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's do it.
Cersei pulls back her great magic and summons a large ball of light, but then trips on a Minotaur child who's standing behind her. Almost loses it as the fight begins.
Yeah, I, Assuasive voice Lygia, am gonna annoy her into walking into Cataclysma's mouth. Push her.
I would like to use my blinding of Toxon, my great deed that I performed, to use my knowledge of tricks of light in order to be able to destabilize her for what I am going to do.
All right, I'm gonna give that a D8. All right. Who else?
I, clever-eyed Batir Nim, daughter of Medusa, will summon creatures to me to take down this witch.
Very well.
I, Ironbender Xenon, shall cover from above to weaken the great priestess, whatever she is, and reduce her ability to fight back as we drag her to her doom.
Yes, the sorcerer Cersei. Very well. I see some rolls coming in.
I Electo would also like to step in. I'm very good at tug of war, and I'm going to wrap her with my net and pull her in.
And they've got to make an 8, which is not my highest roll.
I'm going to also call upon the precision of Artemis to tell her exactly where to get eaten.
Yeah. All right. Still waiting on a couple rolls here, I think.
Yeah, working on it.
And I'm
I
also
used a correspond.
I would like to use a Lygia bond
Too.
Yeah.
because she's inspiring me.
All right. You've got a few chorus members left
I'm
here.
calling upon my mother Aphrodite, for Cersei threatens her beauty, and hopefully we can take her out. And calling upon my bond with Batir.
All right. We are starting with Electo.
You did succeed.
I did it. Electo used the net that was wrapped around Electo. Electo pulls it out and then walks and actually somehow lazily loops the net around Cersei and then drags it a little bit before Electo gets distracted by like a beetle on the ground as a young pupper because the magic is settled. So Electo is now feels inside out like a real pupper.
Yes, she's in the middle of trying to cast her spells, and you like yank her, and she knocks off balance and looks at you, and she says, "I could have enchanted the world if it weren't for you kids." All right.
I think that's me.
Yes. Well, you guys are well.
So, Batir gathers the Minotaur children to her, and she says to them, there comes a time when we heed a certain call, when the world must come together as one. There are people dying, and it's time to lend a hand to life, the greatest gift of all. And she kind of feeds off of their kind of innate magic, and with them around her, and the children start to sing this song that she's led them in, and so they're singing "We Are the World," and Batir turns to Cersei and says, "I am Batir Nim, daughter of the Gorgon, Medusa, and Poseidon, clever-eyed, and I am horse-faced!" And just like throws a bunch of magic like at Cersei and kind of like knocks her out of tent range.
Yes, you do succeed. You knock her to sort of the edge of the dais, which the tent was originally built upon. And she says, "You foolish woman. Like, do you think they won't hunt you down too? Humans are, well, you know, you've ruined your chance at stopping what's coming." And that's all she has time to say before...
Lygia, crossing her arms, looking at you're right, humans are terrible and awful. And you know what? You know what? Humans were also very good at chanting and pointing and laughing. And then she just points at Cersei and says, "Get in the fish! Get in the fish!" And then the crowd just starts chanting, "Get in the fish! Get in the fish!" As she begins to demand that Cersei walk towards the beach to the opening maw of Cataclysmos.
For the record, the beach is quite a few Krellin
Doesn't
leagues
matter.
away.
They are going to point and chant the entire way there.
All right.
This takes all evening.
Lygia's turn is very long.
Yeah.
Yes.
Xenon, Ironbender Xenon, honoring Hephaestus, calling upon her mother Aphrodite and her favor, recruits some of the surrounded chorus and calls upon their bond with Batir's and assesses the situation and sees that the discarded tents can be used to, just like Cinderella's birds were moving fabric about, so too can the various creatures of Cersei's coterie or court can drag Cersei faster towards the water. So there's a bit of caw as we rally and drag the fabric towards Cersei, who's already a little off their game, what with the taunting, and scoop them towards the water with the force of chorus and hero alike and canvas.
Yes.
How do you like that crafting?
She is caught upon it. She's knocked both by magic and mechanics, and she is drugged and caught up in all of it as all of you march many Krellin leagues toward the sea. Do we have...
I think it's just me.
Yes. Feel free to interrupt me. I'll get us to the beach unless Charistus wants to act first.
You can get us to the beach, sure.
All right. You do, in fact, drag her all the way to the beach. Animals and children join you along the way. When you get to the beach, you see your sailors. They all have the heads of different animals. They all are staring at their ship, which is still being slowly devoured by Cataclysmos. In despair until they see you arrive, and then they sort of cheer your name nervously, maybe as if worried they're going to take the blame for this. Yes.
Cersei is struggling. Her magic is strong. She does not want to go into the sea. But now, with the wisdom and light of Apollo, there's it's like there's flickering holograms, like in one of those halls of mirrors of Charistus all over. And they all move at her in different ways, and she can't tell where they're coming from. Suddenly, one of them speaks and says, you've fought and beaten back many a hero over these days, but there's one hero you didn't count on, and his name is Shippy McShipface. And he grabs Cersei in his seahorse tail and dives into the water, carrying her with him, drags her deep under the waves, and finally emerges without her up onto the shore, stands victorious. And I think we're out of chorus members that haven't been named yet. So let's just say he accidentally knocks one random demolition into the water where they drown.
Yeah.
So to be clear, you drag her just underwater, or you drag her in?
Oh, I drag her to her death. To
Cataclysmos, who's still eating the ship, or just underwater?
To Cataclysmos.
All right. Yes, underwater. You take her body and you like shove her toward Cataclysmos's mouth, which reaches out and opens up. And just for a moment, you see a face emerge of one of your sailors named Grem, trying to escape from the beast's throat. But the claws clench down on both Grem and Cersei, and both appear to be lost to the beast forever as you swim back to the surface.
Almost made it.
Your sailors all roar and cheer in their various animal faces as they assume you've defeated something. They don't quite understand what's going on here, but the animals and creatures with you do, and they certainly cheer your name. Even Bericles sort of applauds and notes it and reminds himself he will tell this story as well as the years go on. You think you've maybe killed Cersei, but it's Cersei. You're not sure, but she's certainly gone for now. And in fact, her with her devouring, Cataclysmos seems to be sated, and you see it swim off toward the ocean.
Sorry about your hero, Batir.
You know what they say, you should never meet your idols. You know, you just end up being disappointed, and it was too bad that she didn't really live up to the hype. But
as you talk, Batir, you notice your face turning back into a more human-like face. You notice your rear turning into a horse again. All of you slowly feel yourselves turning back into your original shape. A couple of your sailors manage to as well, but most of them seem to retain their animal heads, and all the people of the island continue as children and animals. Seems only those of great fortitude are able to resist the permanence of the enchantment.
I do not possess the magics of Cersei, but I do think maybe I can find some way to restore our sailors and these people, given enough time and resources.
Well, we've got a house.
That seems nice of you.
Before our sailors turned into bears and chickens and things, it's a place to start.
Yes.
We'll need another ship.
Well, we can build one with the resources and the supplies here. You know, we could all follow our dreams, like helping these people and then drowning them when they're human, and me finding a bunch of children and
not
becoming the best builder.
The tale of how these heroes eventually escaped with their animal face sailors from the Isle of Eye will be have to told another time. as they continued toward their fates. Their names have achieved much greater glory. Some of your names are greater than when we began. Some of you have burned some fate. You head toward your final resting place, but your names have definitely grown in renown. Barracles shall ever talk about Horseface, Betir Nem. All of you, they shall talk of the time that Charistus gained the ass of a fish rather than a horse, of how Hephaestus appeared fully before the bird form, and of Electo and the legends of that, and of Electo snacks and the strange herb that was named eventually after Electo, and of course Ligeia, who was renowned as equally terrible both as teenager and as adult. Rest of those tales, though, shall have to be told another time, because this is the end of our 3-week run of Agon. So,
Thank you for being our Strife player, Tony.
yes.
Yeah.
Can we pull the camera back as we sort of swim out to start salvaging the pieces of Bodie McBoatface? I feel like that's where
We do salvage, I think, the face. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's got a cool scar, though.
It's got
Like,
a cool
yeah,
scar.
yeah, like...
You've never seen Charistus show any real emotion, but he cries
Oh.
he weeps is the word, at the sight of Shippy McShipface's wrecked hull.
Oh, it's tragic. It really is. Well, with that, let us have everybody say who they are and where they can be found. I just want to take a moment to thank everybody for all of their donations to the NAACP, to our GoFundMe for Campaign Zero, to Driftwood Theater, to Unexpected Productions. You've all been so kind and so generous. We don't have any immediate plans for any future shows, but stay tuned. If there are any announcements, we will announce them. And you will be, like the second to know after we know. It's probably how that order will go. So with that, let's have everybody sign off, starting with our Strife player, Tony.
I'm Tony Beeman. I'm at Tiny Beeman. You can find me at Tiny Beeman on various platforms, as well as Unexpected Productions Twitch channel from time to time, and improvising around Seattle when I'm allowed to again.
Electo, or Claudia.
Hi, I'm Claudia, pronounced she, hers, and my Twitch and Twitter is Jackidash, Jakidash. That's a roll.
I think it's terrifying. I don't
That
want
is-
it.
It's so scary.
screaming whistle.
Aztec death whistle.
I like that the mic just says no at a certain point. It
But
just says
I
that's
hear
That was quiet too.
Good Lord.
it's so fun to be a part of Nerd Pref.
Where can they find you?
Oh yeah,
What can they
Twitch and
find you
Twitter
doing?
on the name, the one that I spelled wrong, Jakidash. I'm afraid to ding again because the death whistle might come back.
Yeah, it's a threat. It's a threat. Cheryl.
Hi, everybody. I am Cheryl, aka Muppets Aphrodite, on Twitter, Twitch, or TikTok, or whatever. Or in October, you can buy my book, which you can find more out about at my Twitter.
That's so cool.
It's very rad.
Yeah.
Janine.
I'm Janine. I am Admiral Asthma on Twitter, and I can be found improvising around Seattle.
And Dan.
I'm Dan Poslins at Dan Poslins, man about town. When we once again have a town. that one
man
can
inside
be
house.
About. Yes.
And I'm Random Tuesday. You probably know me. This is my channel. I stream here and other places. Thank you again, everybody, for all of your generous donations to all of the various organizations we have raised funds for. We truly appreciate that you came and you hung out and you watched and you donated and you helped us make a silly and delightful series of stories. We will see you again soon. Don't know when that is, but, someday.
Take care, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Okay.
Bye.